Alright, hello everyone, my name is Disc, and in this video we have a 15 Ara-Kara, and we're going to get just right into it. So check me out on Metafy if you'd like a private lesson. Consider joining the channel if you'd like any of my UI elements. But I had to run this key a couple of times over to get a good run. I think a lot of people would argue that this is one of the easier keys, but at the same time I think it's also kind of the most finicky. It's really easy to mess them up. And we do have a very conservative pull here in the beginning. 10 stack of palm going into this run is very nice. Also, even though I don't have any paint ups on cooldown, I pretty much always open this first area with raptures just to be extra safe. And we are stopping shy of the mini-boss. It is what it is. 6 torments, a couple of executes. Dumping the last handful of raptures I have. And all I'm thinking now is my pet is 5 seconds away. I need to get him back. And we're good. Grab my focus target early. Pet Death, Rift, Penance. Divine Star on the move. So that's one of my main arguments for wanting to take Divine Star, is this one extra thing we can press while moving. It does trigger atonement healing, albeit it might be only a little. It is something you can press while moving. Okay, so here goes just a half rotation, I call it, just the Mind Blast and Rift. Very common, if you're new to my channel, we can get 1 pet per any given pull, the Void Wraith, but we can always get 2 Void Wraiths. I'm sorry, we can always get 1 Void Wraith, but 2 Mind Blasts. So if you're kind of, if you're not doing that, that is something to try and focus on. Okay, we still have quite a bit of time before this mini-boss. This is a large pull. I'm opening with a healthy amount of dots. Just ramping some atonements in party before my pet. Alright, here we go. So this time I went pet, Mind Blast, Penance, Death. I do think those can be a little bit interchangeable. Switch my targets there to preserve my dots. And then we just got the Mind Blast, yep. And we sent it again for that 2-to-1 ratio. It's an area where I think a lot of priests might have lost, is not getting that second Mind Blast in a pull. It's a little bit too free of a spell to kind of ever hold it. No, not in a total absolute terms, but really want to send that thing as much as we can. Okay. So we have, oh yeah, I forgot in chat down there. Zembitia trying to tell me what to do. So I played PI on him there mainly just because I'm thinking I want PI on the mini boss. So there was a reason to PI him. The Shaman is a 3-minute cooldown versus a PI of 2 minutes. It's just gonna hit him sometimes. And really all I'm thinking about here is having it for the mini boss. I don't know, just like, be happy you're getting PI. I gave you a fully maximized PI, just take it and do your best. Here goes the pet. Pet Rift Penance. And then a double death for the win. And now what I'm thinking is mini boss looks like it's next. I don't have my pet yet. That pull died a little too quickly. But we do have PI in 5 seconds, which is exactly what I wanted. Rapturing with a barrier and both my defensive Desperate Prayer and Fade. And there is PI again on the druid to help with this mini boss. I need to get this guy dead. A couple extra raptures were left over. Had a torment in there to recover. But that is pretty much the best you can do there. A 2-phase on that attack. Noticing that was the only timer I'm tracking on nameplates in that pull. General rule of thumb, I know you've heard me talk about this, but any given pull, there's really only excuse to track one thing. There are some pulls that two spells is the right thing to do, but by and large it's just 1 or 2 spells per pull. Really focusing on keeping a clean nameplate area to help us make the best decisions possible. Gripped the Shaman out of that, noticing the blue friendly nameplate, so I gripped the Shaman. Someone on YouTube just a moment ago was saying that party nameplates are useless and distracting, and I think there's just a slight disconnect if anyone thinks that. A slight disconnect in what you find valuable and what is actually valuable. At least as a priest, I will always argue for party nameplates. That is mainly to maximize our radiance, which is only spread by 30 yards, and to maximize grip. So I do think they have utility. Okay, so we have a 10 stack of palm going in. It's pretty easy to get behind on this boss. So the best words of encouragement here is play your pet and rift a little preemptive of the damage. Tracking the alarm shrill and the onslaught. So the pet and rift are out. The opener of the pet and rift is over. And I don't know if I do it every ad phase, but I do like to give them a dot before I torment. So I do give 1 torment from penance and 1 torment from death. And it's a little bit better if you can spread dots on them. Okay, so rift is out for this. I also have my radiance out of the way before the move. So we want a rift on every attack, and then we want a void wraith and rift on every shrill. So the opener of the pet and rift is already done. Here comes the shrill. Got the ads, torment the ads. And then the best thing you can do here with the onslaught is play your rift immediately. Just came up and played it. And to take it one step further, if you can also get your radiance out of the way before the dance, you're going to ensure that everyone is covered. Okay, I'm going to combo in barrier here. We have a pet, rift, death, radiance, and torment. And that's a good example. If anyone watched my focus targeting changes, I have my smites always default into the focus. So even though I was targeting the ads to kind of give them torments, I was still spamming my smites and they were funneling into the schism, which I think is fine there as a healer. Okay, doing a small atonement ramp here before the shrill. I think at this point we're actually ignoring the ads. I was just going for a little bit of damage. I don't know if that was the right call or not. Cast my radiance right before the dance. What that does is it ensures that everyone is atoned for the collapse of the rift. So that's a major mechanic for us, and as long as we radiance during the rift, even if it's the very next spell, everyone will be covered. And then right there, typically I would have gone for a pet and a rift, but being that the boss was about to die, I just did the rift because I was not going to be able to get the CDR of my pet. So I kind of held. Okay, and then going into this next pull, again, there's only one attack we really need to track the timer of. It's coming from the big hulking brood guard, or whatever his name is. It's the AoE stomp and party, and we really want to send something on every one of those. So my focus is set early. I have Rapture. Yep, there we go. So coding the party before the hit. Also queuing in a pet and a rift. Torments. Okay, we don't have pet, but we do have rift. It's also, I think the only change from my last video with my UI is I have my target's cast bar right above my player cast bar, and the point of that is to help me precast, and I think we have some examples coming up on some of the next hulking guys. Depending on kind of where you're at in your rotation and what spells you have available, one of the best practices is precast your Radiance on top of his cast. And that's going to do the best for quick recovery of health. Okay, and in these pulls we do have fear opportunities I have queued in. It is the alarm. Torments. And the pet is not too far away here. We have 10 seconds on him about. I believe I'll go into a barrier here just to get that rolling. So paying really close attention to the timer. Yep. So whenever we have a timer in pull like this, by design only tracking one spell, it's because that is the one we have to track for our healing. So I'm just really paying close attention to when that attack is happening, and just play spells accordingly. And this pull can be a little bit dangerous, so I paint up the tank there. For that one I used Desperate Prayer on myself. I did not have heals in party just yet, so a personal defensive is a really good way to level the playing field. I'm sending a pet and a rift here. Six torments. And I believe I send one more rift here. Yeah. So the pet's not ready. We can send the rift and kind of farm back the pet's CDR during the rift. And not that we want to send a pet here, the pull's almost expired, but we're kind of prepping for next pull. Force collapse. So that was just a rift. I high prio 2 penance into the rift. Then I force collapse it before the mob dies. And here we have Ascendance. There goes PI. Full Atonements in party, pet, and rift. And I think that was the same. A force collapse on the rift gave it its second penance and collapse it. Okay, so it looks like no pet here. We're going for just a rift. Queued in my fear on that guy. Noticing his cast bar is Aqua. That's a fear opportunity for us versus a gray cast bar. And I have an audible cue and my fear icon glow if my fear is available. So it's Pretty good little system if you ask me. And it looks like, yeah, I got 6 torments there. I wasn't expecting myself to throw the pet also, but it looks like I did. But in this next pull I know are where we have some good examples of pre-casting Radiance on top of the group damage. So let's see, I almost have pet back. Here goes pet. Rift. Feed and Fade is my personal defensive. Star while we still have some ads up. Precast to Radiance for quick recovery of health. And that one, you know, someone could fight me on it that I almost missed. And it's bound to happen. I think precasting heals is, you know, a skill to develop. You know, you're not ever going to be perfect at it. Let's see, I think I get another precast on the next one. And in higher keys, I think it goes for all keys, but especially in higher keys, quick recovery of health. Precast to Radiance. Quick recovery of health is the name of the game. Okay, and then going into this next boss, I have already talked to the author of Bigwigs. For some reason, he turned off the timers of infestation, calling it clutter. And I just think that's a little wackadoo because it's the only attack here that damages. So I would say really important to track the timer of the infestation. As a Disc Priest, as a Disc Priest, this is one fight where we have to rely on quick reaction times rather than being proactive. So we kind of always have to just have a plan for the next one. So kind of scanning your buffs before it goes out and just kind of knowing, okay, on the next one I'm either going to Pain Sup, on the next one I'm going to Rapture them, on the next one, you know, I have a Harsh Discipline proc, I'm going to give them a Defensive Penance. Just one way or another, always having a plan between our defensive spells. Also not counting out Barrier as a personal defensive for someone, or as a single target defense, I mean. Okay, so that one was Rapture. And for the most part here, I believe I only send Pet with the Rift. So I'm giving these defensive spells to kind of cover the infestation. Single target barrier. Yeah, I'm giving defensive plays for the infestations, and in between, I'm just doing the best I can to get my pet back, queuing them together only. I don't think I send the Rift on its own ever here. Couple executes there. And also, something I added in here is, if you might have noticed the purple bar on his nameplate, that's tracking his energy. That is the timer for the intermission phase. So it's kind of nice to see that. Here goes a pet. And it's kind of like reading between the lines of my gameplay, but in these higher keys where there's heavy single target damage, we have to really consider, how much value our Wheel and Woe brings. So after I cast a Penance, I often hit other spells. I dodge Smite and I dodge Shields, just to kind of hold on to that buff for at least a couple of casts, anticipating that there is going to be single target damage and a shield might be the better play than a smite. So yeah, like I might Penance and then Radiance, or I might Penance then Death. I try and after my Penance sometimes to kind of dodge those Wheel and Woe spells and just bank it for at least like a second. That was a defensive Penance for the Rogue. And boom. Palm out of combat, Radiance out of combat. Not perfect, but pretty good. So I think that boss, chime in your opinion if you want. But I think that boss for Discipline is a little hard. At least it is for me, and I think it's because we have to be reactionary, and because the author of Bigwigs thinks that spell is irrelevant. I think the way he put it was, he thought it was clutter, I think was the word he used. But being that it's the only attack that causes damage, I think there's just maybe a disconnect in his understanding of what's clutter and what's not clutter. The eye on the Shaman. Ooh, Shaman down. Should have given it to the Druid. And then whenever you have a party member go down, you kind of, my viewers probably already know this, but you have to kind of be extra on your toes in a 4 of 5 party, because instead of the damage being divided by 5, it's not going to be divided by 4, and picking up a recovery is not that easy to do. So I paints up there as soon as the Shaman went down to help the tank out. I think mainly a play like that is paint something the tank. It gave me the freedom to prio the other people. Okay, so these pulls are pretty difficult. Paying close attention not to touch those black circles. Full Atonement ramp, several dots out. Sent out my Rift before the death. Sent out my Divine Star before the death. Really just trying to get the damage grab on those lesser mobs there. Okay, pet 20 seconds away, but we just got the Rift. Right, things are getting a little crazy. I have a Rapture here. I believe I pains up him, but arguably maybe should have done it sooner? Maybe I didn't paint up him. But these pulls are quite threatening, I think deceptively threatening, so it's not a bad idea to kind of give extra love to your tank. You know, defensive penance into the tank, wheel and woe raptures into the tank, flash heals as needed. I think even barrier would be fine, because barrier on boss is not that valuable. One way or another, I could have barriered here and boss. Okay, we have one more trash pull. 10 stack of palm, always refreshing it out of combat. So a 10 stack of palm will pretty much last you throughout an entire pull as just a small assist. I see no reason not to take it over Nova. Okay, so I open with a full rotation here. Pet Death, Rift, Penance. And this is not enough percent, so I know that we're going to be chaining in a pack of birds. So I'm really doing everything I can here just to farm CDR. Prepping my pet for when the ads chain in. Yep, farming CDR, smiting, smiting, smiting. I added a couple of dots to the field. Here goes the rotation. Ooh, I missed an execute. Rip. Switch targets to preserve my dots. And some executes there. And 7 torments. So I think I lost dot spread on all of my penance there. But a small critique. Getting 7 torments, I think, is the more important thing to focus on there. So I did get all of my torments, but I lost the dot spread. Okay, going into boss. Really only one timer we need to track, and it's the cultivated poisons. Looks like I tracked the singularity too. But we want to throw spells every poison attack. Ideally, a pet and a rift. But sometimes we have to do a rift with Vampiric Embrace, or a rapture with a rift. So it's all about comboing spells. Generally, it's just 2 spells at a time. And then using Fear to break our stun here. So I do look at those stun phases as CDR opportunities. So So I really do my best to like have a dot up on boss and get my pet back. Also, really important to practice every time there's a poison attack to use defensives to cycle your Desperate Prayer and Fade. Looks like I have PI, so I don't know what I'm doing there. Okay, so here comes the next poison attack. I only have the Rift, so I gave myself a personal barrier with Fade. Okay, I have the Pet and Rift, ramping Atonements and Party. Desperate Prayer. Here goes a full rotation. Sucks that we're doing this 4 of 5. I think they got ate up by the Singularity, but we do not have a battle res for them. 7 Torments. And that was a paints up on myself without any personal defensives. Paints ups are great personals. Arguably, if we were in Discord, I should have been paints upping someone else since the tank was dispelling me. That's okay. Okay, we have a full rotation, atonements in group, pet death, rift, penance. Always doing your best to like move perpendicularly to the poison attack, and also just do your best to not aim that into melee too. I think it's easier said than done, but yeah, you don't want to put your team in harm's way. Definitely takes 2 to tango, but you know, when you can, don't point it at your team. There's another paints up on myself. Okay, let's see. Pet is ready. Rift is going to be ready. Dot is on the boss. Atonements are in party. Here goes the full rotation. And really the best thing you can do, I think it goes for this boss and other bosses, even Trash, is your first 4 spells of your rotation are relatively weak. So I like getting those out of the way first. Okay, here is just a Rift. Two penance into the Rift. Okay, I have Pet and Rift. A couple of flash shields in this phase just to keep my protective light procced. Pet Death, Rift, Penance, all before the damage came out. And arguably, I should have gone the other way there. I set those green things right into melee. Okay, I'm rapturing this one. It looks like it's going to be a Rapture Rift. Yep. Casting my Radiance off the tank to make sure it hits everyone in party. But I almost got boinked there. A couple Raptures left over. Flash heals for the Protective Light. Here to break the stun. Full Atonements in party. Here goes a Pet Death, Death, Rift, Penance. Moving that away from the melee. Radiance off the tank to hit the full party. And 7 torments. Okay, this time I cast another barrier. That's to help me in the Shaman. Ouch. It looks like he laid his poison totem and he got boinked there, so maybe there's an argument to, if you're going to play barrier, don't share it with anyone, just be solo in it. But one way or another, we timed out with 20 seconds to spare. A little bit close of a run, but we did have a lot of unnecessary deaths. I also think pull 1, not pulling in the mini-boss, contributed to our tight timer. But I think this key is pretty easy overall. As a priest, you have to be in a group with poison dispellers. It's just, it's too big of a mechanic here to not have at least 2 poison dispels, just food for thought. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Check me out on Metafy if you're interested in a one-on-one private lesson. I can do VOD reviews. I can shadow your plays. We can go over UI. We can go over rotation. And if you like any of my UI elements, they're open to all of my students or supporters of the channel. So with all that being said, thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, Disc.